Don't know where we're going, got no way of knowing. Where we going?
Driving on the road to nowhere.
We're going, Dad.
Spending for a living, checking out women. And we don't tell Jess.
We're Jess and Dan, and together we've bought a semi-falling down farm in Scotland, and we're documenting the whole process of putting it all back together again into a family home with you guys. So if you never want to miss an update, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. But for now, let's see what we got up to this time.
We are going to have a look at options for lawnmowers. Potentially a small tractor. And I can pretend I'm a farmer.
Can we just clarify? Can we just clarify the fact that, like, where we're saying small tractor, we're talking like micro tractor.
Mini tractor.
Well, yeah, we're not talking like, 150 horsepower small tractor.
I want Lamborghini going into competition with Jeremy Clarkson. Clarkson's farm, let's be having you.
I think
Calves!
yeah, baby cows. That's what happens. Baby cows. Okay.
Big cow.
Oh, fuck. So what is the aim? Like, what are we actually looking for? What do we need this piece of equipment to do?
Bare minimum, need a ride-on lawnmower.
Yeah.
Width doesn't really matter because we've got to do the fencing anyway, and we can make openings bigger to be able to fit said ride-on lawnmower in. But obviously we are aware that in the probably not so distant future we will need things like a mini digger, or we've also discussed a telehandler, just because like the use of having a bucket and obviously the areas you can reach with that when used safely would make things a hell of a lot easier.
We just needed to be able to do this job, and given the complexities of the site in terms of it's very rough, as in uneven ground with rocks and stuff, it's going to be wet, and so on and so forth. We just need to start to make some little choices. Now, it would be perfect to just have a ride-on lawnmower and a small tractor with a front loader, something like that as a separate thing, or a telehandler, or etc, etc. But that's something that we're going to have to look at over time. That's not an immediate with the priority is the house, but we also need to be aware of efficiency, because I'm quite...
Jess doesn't like the fact that things are taking a little bit of time.
I don't mind that they're taking a bit of time. I'm just I'm hyper aware on like the schedule and keeping things organised. That's all. And you are as well.
See, I'm going bald already.
Oh yeah.
But I have been told that I'll look like an upside down head.
No, it's an upside down egg. We are going to go and see what the local agricultural dealerships have to offer, and hopefully pick up a chainsaw. Dan's Sanders died, so he's well pissed about that.
5 weeks. 5 weeks it lasted. If I hadn't have also invested in a hoover and an attachment to be able to put the hoover to my said sander, I would not be buying DeWalt again. But it just makes sense to buy DeWalt again, since I've got the stuff for it.
I hate to be the one to say this, but I think it's DeWalt.
It is
With the world's longest introduction, we currently have our names down basically to get one of these little Kubotas. So it's a brand I'm not actually that familiar with, to be honest, but for the size that we need and the price point that we need, with the versatility that we would like to have, this is a really good starter. So hopefully we'll be getting a secondhand one of these little beasts very, very soon. And actually that's a really good thing, because we could have done with something that had a little bit of, get up and go more so than a human being for some tasks on the farm, which is what we're going to be focusing on in today's episode. So before I jet off and fly away once again to go do something else somewhere else, we had this storm to deal with. This is Storm Kathleen, and she was just starting up at this stage. We had really, really, really strong winds, and they were coming right at the side that we are not protected by. So we are protected on 3 sides, but the one side that we're not protected on was exactly where that wind was coming, and it was hitting straight under the side of that roof. The roof was lifting, and it's looking a little bit precarious, if you ask me. The whole thing was coming up all from the floor, but it turns out this has been doing this for a while because someone else has already made an attempt to strap it down in the past. So it's just one of those things, and we were just hoping for the best that she wouldn't rip off. If I could have found some ratchet straps, would have tied her down, but more rope wasn't really going to do that much, so we just let the chips fall where they may. Out on the farm where the water is concerned, the stream very much overflowed its culvert and then became even more dramatic as the day went on. With no feasible way of managing the amount of water coming down there, we ended up with a little mini burn happening all the way across the yard and heading down into the flooded area, which we'll come back to in a second. So I went up to check the driveway, and the driveway looked like this, and for some reason I thought, why not in the middle of the storm, let's go up to the highest part of the land and start to fill in some potholes. So I walked up with my wheelbarrow full of stone all the way up to the tree at the top there to go ahead, and this was the wind. It's the type of wind where you can't breathe because it like whips the air straight back out of your mouth when you take a breath in. It's one of those winds. But we still had a long way to walk, and so onwards I continued. I will admit that, to be honest, I did one load and then went, nah, this isn't for me. Physically, I'm not capable of carrying stone that far, up 1/2 kilometre to the top of a hill to fill in some holes, and it was going to take me ages. So Dan said, let's use the horse box and head on up there. To get the horse box up full of stone, we did have to navigate some narrow points, which Dan was proud of.
Anything up close then with there, Jess?
No.
Look in that wing mirror.
Dead proud.
Move, get out the way, get out the way, get out the way. Oh no, fight's out. I'm about to punch your lights out. Job well done.
Heading up the driveway once again, I just wanted to triple check my version of the potholes I'd done yesterday.
Hey, that's good, that. They're quite good, aren't they?
What am I doing? Going to the top and working
Yeah,
down?
yeah, definitely. We'll do not what Jess did yesterday. Oh my god.
I love that these two, there's like 7 in this batch.
They're like the furthest ones. She's windy, but hold on to your door. Let's go.
If I was doing a tutorial of how to fill a pothole, I'm going to be honest with you, this is not the method. This is not how you're supposed to do it. This isn't how it works. However, we're on a compacted stone track rather than anything else. I don't have anything that can rake it out and grade it. I don't have the equipment. It's not there. So instead, we just chipped away at the edges, leveled it all out, stamped it all in, and then drove over it a few times. And that was our temporary fix. Read the word temporary, but let's test it. Barely even a wobble. And then the bits that we didn't do yet.
What did you think, Dan, as a bit we'd done?
I'd have paid someone to do that.
I don't think I'd have paid him if they'd have done that, but it drove better, didn't it? Better than this.
3 days.
Yeah, give it 3 days.
What, these yellow birds?
Oh,
yellow tits?
Yellow birds!
Yellow tits? Are they actually called yellow tits?
I don't know, but I feel like you've made a new thing if not. What are the yellow birds? They're so pretty, look at them.
Well, I just thought yellow tits, like, seems they get blue tits. But it ain't just on the tits that they're yellow, are they?
Well, yeah, that's the chest.
Oh yeah, it's on the head as well.
Well, I like them, whatever they are, they can stay. Another load?
I reckon so. We'll go a bigger load as well.
So we headed back to go and fill up some more bits, but at this stage we could see what was happening with the water. So it was coming down the driveway, coming into the yard, and then just congregating around the corner of that building. So whilst we went along, we also made a new little channel to divert the water flow away from the corner of the building and down onto the drive track. So I'm dead proud of our little watercourse management here, and we've taken most of the loose stone off of the top of there. Even the camera decided nope, and therefore we gave up and moved on.
that is like heaven in comparison. And we've got our slightly worse set.
Go to the right, should be smooth.
Ish.
And then the ones we haven't done.
And then the ones we haven't done.
It's a job well done for now. Moving on.
Kathy has died down a little bit. She's still here, but she's not as blustery. The way I describe it is like she's a drunk on a night out. You know, once they've kicked off once, there's always a bit of a liability, and who knows what'll happen. So just going to do a quick walk around, make sure everything is as it should be, as best as possible, and rectify anything that's not as it should be. Yesterday we battened down the hatches on this as much as possible. Decided to take this door off because one side of it was literally not attached at all. It was just held up by the vegetation around it. And the right hand side was held up by that little single hinge. So I've just took it off, put it on the floor down there, so it's in a bit safer place and is less likely to blow around. These have been well and truly battened down. Managed to stay shut. We had to breeze block this one because there's nothing to shut it, like attach it to. And fortunately, at the moment, as horrible as it looked, the roof is still intact, which is great because if it wasn't, and it like the tin sheets lifted up, the electric supply was right in the firing line, so that would have been far from ideal. Down here, everything looks like it's survived as it was. Nothing's moved, nothing's changed. You can see what it looks like from the side. This is not in the greatest condition, and when we get a bit of better weather, I think it's going to be a few days work and we'll get it taken down. In the dairy, all looks good, as we would expect, as this is probably one of the most solid outbuildings that we've got. We do have some logs down there because I did get a new toy yesterday and some of the fallen branches did end up getting cut up. So all is looking good at the moment. This is another one of them that needs to come down. End of life, RIP, seen better days. We even managed to batten down this door, which, hearing the slightest wind before, was just flying open. And she stood strong, she stood the test of time.
Something didn't stand the test of time, and that was this unfortunate window, which met its timely end with the wind. And so I had to have the tedious task of very, very carefully picking up bits of glass and making sure that they were moved out of the way so that the dogs would be safe going around. Technically, Dan did run it over, but we're not going to talk about that. And speaking of the dogs, they were having a whale of the time in a brand new natural pond that had collected in the field. Most of the storm was over at this point, so instead we just went on to continue checking out everything, making sure the drains were flowing. And this confused me because the flood was back, but the drains were clear. It was just the case that the water was refilling in that section much faster than it could have got away. So no drains blocked for once, that was a win. And instead we moved on to tackling some gardening. So just keeping out of the way of other bits and pieces, we knew we needed to tackle this hedge because it was causing van drivers and traffic to come too close to the house wall, and there's been a couple of nudges and a couple of near misses, so best just to hack it back. Starting off with a hedge trimmer just to take the tops off. The gauge of height is my armpit, and that's what we were working on for a really accurate measure. So with me on tidy up time and Dan on hacking away, we ended up tackling this little laurel hedge all the way along. Now, where the laurel hedge got to be a little bit too overgrown for us, we then reverted, instead of using a hedge cutter, to actually going ahead and using a chainsaw. So we scored the hedge with the hedge trimmer in the first instance, and then Dan went along and cut with the chainsaw round the top of my line, essentially. And all the while, I'm still trying to collect all of the bits and pieces without getting hacked to pieces with a chainsaw that swings around accidentally. And I mean, at the end of the day, it actually looks so neat. It was crazy how much more light this let in, but here, have a look at how much we took off, because I think this is easier to see on this one. So the view now when you arrive is an actually fairly neat hedge. We're not perfectionists, it's all right. And what that gave us was much more open-sided to this edge, which is the east side. And the east side was important for us to get clear just to see if we could help to dry out this northeast corner of the house, because it's been looking particularly damp. You can see the old dike. So this is a dry stone wall for those of us from England, but this is a dike here, so confusing, I know, but we will build that back up over time, and those are just some of our trimmings, and this is an example of the before and the after. Nice and neat. Moving onwards, we had a very, very important moment where our septic tank clearance specialist came in. So absolutely amazing work from these guys, SOS Drains, and they worked to clean and clear out and also just assess the situation with both of our septic tanks. We did discuss this previously in a different video, but what we wanted to do is basically have all of the liquids taken out, assess the solids underneath, and also assess the structural integrity of the tanks themselves. Now, the guys here, really, really great. They were able to tell us that realistically we need to dig these back out, not because they need to be condemned and put in the bin and they have to be replaced, because they do not believe that they do. They do think that they could be repaired. However, there is too much solids at the bottom. So don't have a panic, you guys. That's not poop, okay? It's not. It's not human poop. I mean, probably some of it is, but in all fairness, the vast majority of that is soil. It's just soil. It's just kind of broken down into muddy, silty, soily stuff. And I can promise you as well, from being stood right here whilst I'm filming now, that there is no smell. It doesn't smell at all. There's no smell to it. So I just went to clear it out, but we blocked it up multiple times because there's just too much solids down there. But there's also a little bit of a collapse in the left hand, the closest side of this tank wall. And what that's meant is that there is just a few bits of rocks and stones. Then we moved on to the other septic tank, which is for the cottage. This tank is it's a much newer tank, but it's in a worse condition just because it looks like someone's accidentally run over it, / reversed over it, / broken it with a tractor. So with me obviously expertly helping to put those bits and pieces together, FYI, that's sarcasm, you guys. I don't actually think I'm an expert. We set about clearing this one. Now you can tell from the water level that it looks like there was a blockage. Turns out there's not. The issue with this tank is that it's backfilling from high groundwater levels elsewhere. I mean, we've just had blooming Storm Kathleen, so we can't really be, it's not a surprise. But it was backfilling with fresh water, clean water from somewhere else. So it's a case of making sure that we could try and get as much of the back dark, sludgy, poopy stuff as physically possible, and then trying to assess whereabouts the outlet pipe is, and if we could find out if that was doing something. So this is obviously, me and Dan getting in there with the graft. We could not identify its exact location, so we need to wait for the groundwater levels to go down and then assess what's happening. However, someone that you guys haven't met is the farm cat. So this is the farm cat. I just call him Bobcat or Kitty Cat.
Hey, kitty cat.
He is a he, even if it's a she. We're not besties, but it'll come.
Cat? Do you think maybe one day we can be friends?
One day, I will win over this cat. It'll take some time.